but I'm going to try to record this because this is so much better. Is it already okay? Is it okay? Okay. So today we're going to talk about translations. Monday we chatted about reflections, and those are going to pop back up today. But translations, all they are, they're probably the easiest one of them all. But what a translation is, it's when you slide your figure left, right, up, down, you just slide it. So reflections, you took your figure and you flipped it. Translations, just slide your figure. So how we are going to notate translations is a little different. So translations, you're going to see this X, Y, which we did with reflections. That represents your original point. And what you are going to see is you're going to have like X plus or minus, we'll say like 5, and then Y minus 1. Like this is what it's going to look like. It's kind of hard for me to say exactly like what the problem is going to be, but this is what it's going to look like. And what this means is you're going to take every single X value and you're going to add 5, and you're going to take every single Y value and you're going to subtract 1. So as long as you can add and subtract, you can do translations. What really happens though is this plus 5 means that your figure or your original point is going to move right 5. And then this Y minus 1 means that you would move your figure also down 1. And that's going to pop up here in a second when I look at a picture. That'll make more sense. But that's pretty much what translations are. That's the new thing for today. Am I still coming in pretty clear? Okay, I'm going to keep going. All right, so first example. Switch colors to keep it interesting. Example 1. If I have points E at negative 5, 4, F at negative 1, 5, and G at negative 2, negative 1, that's what I'm starting with. Those are my original points. I want to apply a translation of X plus 7, Y minus 4. So what that means is I'm going to take each of these points, I'm going to add 7 to each of the X values, and I'm going to subtract 4 from each of the Y values. And what that ends up giving me are my E prime, F prime, G prime. So like what we did with reflections. So I'm going to get E prime, F prime, and G prime. So I take every single X value and I add 7. And I take every single Y value and it says subtract 4. And again, if you can add and subtract these numbers, then you're going to be able to get your coordinates. So E prime, if I take negative 5 plus 7, I get 2. 4, and then for the Y value, if I take 4 minus 4, I get 0. There's my new coordinate. That's it. For F prime, I take negative 1 plus 7, and I get 6. And I take 5 minus 4, and I get 1. And then for G prime, I take negative 2 plus 7, and I get 5. And then negative 1 minus 4 is negative 5. And that's it. Do you want to see another example, or does that make sense? It's pretty easy, right? Just adding and subtracting. The other thing that you're going to do today, and this is the one thing that as I'm watching people today that they're kind of struggling with, and I think it's because I didn't do a very good job of explaining it second hour, so I'm going to try this hour, is now let's take a look at a translation. So we started with WXYZ here. Remember, we like right here, we started with EFG and then we got the primes. So here we started with WXYZ, so this picture right here, and then we translated it, we moved it, and ended up with W prime, X prime, Y prime, Z prime. So they want to know basically, how did it move? So W starts here and then translates to W prime here. So basically you have to count. So to get from here to here, I go 1, 2, 3, 4 to the left. And then 1, 2, 3 down. But we have to write that as your translation. So if it's 4 left, that's X minus 4. And if it's 3 down, that's Y minus 3. So that would be your translation. I'm going to show you one more because I only did one example last hour and I think that caused some issues. So here's another example. Here's triangle PQR. That's where I start. And then I apply some type of translation and I end up with P prime, Q prime, R prime. So I have to ask myself, how do I get from here to here? And you only need to do it for one point. Like I'm going to use the Q's. You could use the P's or you could use the R's. It doesn't matter. I'm going to use the Q's. So to get from Q to Q prime, I go 1 to the right. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 down. So now I have to write that as the translation rule. So I have X, and if I go 1 right, right is a positive direction. 7 down is a negative direction, so I would put Y minus 7. Does that make sense? I explained that a little bit more this hour. Does that make sense? Yeah? Lauren, does that make more sense right now than I did last hour? Yeah, I know. See, if you show up to both of them, second hour is my guinea pigs, sadly. But I started watching people struggle, so I wanted to make sure I hit on that a little bit more. The last thing that you're going to have to do today are these things called compositions. And what a composition is, it's 2 or more, which we're only doing 2, so you don't worry about the or more, but it could be more, 2 or more transformations like being done at the same time. So we're only going to do 2 transformations because technically we only know 2. We only know reflections and translations. The main thing that you have to be really careful about with compositions or when you have multiple transformations going on is you have to go in order. If you look at your assignment today, it says like A, B, you have to do A first and then do B. So you have to go in order. If you don't go in order, your answers are going to be wrong. So you have to be super careful about that. So we're only going to do, we're going to do a composition. And if everyone feels good after one, then I'm going to let you loose. But if we need to do another one, we will do another one. So we are going to start with the points A at 3, 2, B at -2, -1, and C at 5, -5. So those are our original starting points. 3, 2, -2, -1, 5, -5. And we're going to do the composition that where we're going to start by doing a reflection. I know, blast from the past, blast from Monday. We're going to do a reflection over the y-axis first. After we do the reflection over the y-axis, then we are going to do a translation of x plus 1, y minus 1. So we're going to start out with the reflection. We're going to do that first. And then after the reflection, we're going to take those points that we got from the reflection, and then we're going to translate them. So on Monday, we did reflections. If I'm reflecting over the y-axis, what changes? The x value. So if I reflect over the y-axis, that means that the x value changes. So that means A prime, I only change the x value, I would have -3, 2. B prime, only change the x value, it would become 2, -1. And then C prime, I'm running out of room, only change the x value, you would have -5, -5. Ooh, that is like squeezing it in there. So again, when you reflect over the y-axis, the only thing that changes is the x value. So we did the reflection. Now we need to do the translation. But we're going to translate these new points. So that's what makes it a composition, because we're taking the new points and translating them. So this says x plus 1, y minus 1. So that means every single x value gets a 1 added to it. Every single y value gets a 1 subtracted from it. And these actually give you these things called double primes. So here we started with A, we did a reflection, we got an A prime. Once you do the translation, you get a double prime. And if I were to do something else, I would just keep adding those tick marks to it. But we're not. We're just doing those and we're done. So a double prime would be, if I take -3 plus 1, I get -2. 2 minus 1 is 1. So that would be my final answer for that point. B double prime, 2 plus 1 is 3. -1 minus 1 is -2. And then C double prime, -5 plus 1 is -4. -5 minus 1 is -6. So these points right here would be the only thing that we would be looking for. That's it. You don't need to worry. You need these in order to get these, but sadly, these get left out, and I just don't, I mean, I care about them, but I don't really care about them. They just don't get to be part of the answer. Does that make sense, or do you want to see another example like that? Okay.